cancer survival means 5 years after your diagnosis, you're still alive. That's the only thing a cancer survivor means in medical terms. With that being said, if somebody dies on year 5, day 2, then they're still a cancer survivor. So yeah, the length of time in which after that diagnosis may has been extended, but the amount of people who are getting cancer has gone up exponentially. So that's a cause for concern. And the big concern is that all 7 of these things that I'm going to share with you today, the same modalities that they were using in the 70s are the same modalities that they're using today. None of them address any of the 7 that I'm going to mention today. And all of the 7 that I'm going to tell you about today, you can do the research yourself and see that they are directly connected to cancer. Okay, and the reason why I bring that up is because I've had people who've come to me and said, I have colorectal cancer and I have stomach cancer. And I'm one of those people, I'm always respectful for everybody in the healthcare loop. And so what I asked them was what did your doctor suggest that you do? And when I asked them about nutrition, and these are people who have stomach and colon cancer. When I ask, well, what did your doctor say you should do about your diet? They'll say, well, I asked him about that. He said this had nothing to do with my diet. Okay, so just think of it from that perspective. All 7 of these, none of the typical modalities address any of these 7. None of the advice that you get often when you go into the doctor are these things addressed. Okay, so yeah, there are people who, the common modalities is surgery, radiation, and chemo. That was the same ones in the 1970s. None of these address these 7. Okay, so that's really important. All right, so the other thing that is really important is that most people think that cancer is directly related to your genetics. And here's what I'm going to educate you about. When you look at the vast majority of cancers that people are suffering with today, most of them are reproductive cancers, cancers like breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate cancer, etc. Most of the cancers that people are suffering with today are not genetically linked. Only 5% of cancers are purely genetically linked. 95% of cancers are actually epigenetics. And epigenetics isn't what you think it is. Epigenetics, epi meaning above your genetics. What's above your genetics? Your lifestyle. Okay? It's the impact of your lifestyle on your genetics. All right? That's what 95% of your cancers are. That's what 95% of your diseases are. The impact of your lifestyle on your genetics. And the reason why I say on your genetics is because your genetics are like light switches. They can be turned on, they can be turned off. Okay? You got uncle genes, which are cancer genes, can be turned on. Okay? And then you have tumor suppressor genes, genes that suppress tumors, cancerous tumors. They can be turned off. Okay? Your lifestyle turns them on or turns them off. Okay? So yeah, your mother could have had it. Your grandmother could have had it. Your father could have had it. Your uncle could have had it. They all could have had it. But all that did was put you in a position where you most likely had the same habits that they had. Okay? And because you have the same habits and lifestyle, of course, when it came to turning on and off, you did the turning on and off based on having the same lifestyle. So that's really, really important when you listen to these 7 today, because I always tell people an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cures. It is much easier to prevent than it is to cure. And is curing something that is possible? Absolutely. But why even do that when you could prevent? Okay, hugely important. All right, so I'm going to go through these 7 today. And as I'm going through these 7, what you're going to realize is that quite often there are opportunities where you can change your lifestyle, and this will actually change, your risk for cancer. All right, so let's get directly into it. Number one is environmental chemicals. Okay. Now you're probably wondering what environmental chemicals may be in the air. Yeah, there are some environmental chemicals from a lot of factories and things of that nature, but specifically for this conversation, that's not really what I'm focusing on. What I'm focusing on is the environmental chemicals that you can change, okay, and that you can have a direct impact on immediately. Those include things like forever chemicals, okay? Forever chemicals are what are called like PFAS, okay? PFAS, okay? These are forever chemicals that you will quite often see in nonstick sort of pots and pans, okay? So yeah, it's very convenient to get these nonstick pots and pans, but that nonstick layer that you see, it has these forever chemicals in them. Okay, and if you don't believe me, all you got to do is do a little bit of research. DuPont was one of the first companies to actually implement this nonstick layer, and they were based, I do believe, in West Virginia. And there was a time where they were making all these nonstick cookwares and pots and pans, and part of the chemicals they were dumping in a river. Okay, so a whole town of people got infected by these chemicals. And not only did the people get infected, but also the animals. So a lot of the animals just, unfortunately passed away. And that was the first sign. And then secondarily, people started getting cancers. To a tune of 3,500 people got cancer. Okay, there was a lawsuit where almost $100 million was paid out to all of these people as a result of that chemical, those forever chemicals that were in the river that are also in your nonstick cookware. Okay, microplastics and plastics. It's important to know and understand that plastic is really a relatively new invention. If you go ask your great grandparents about plastic and when their first time seeing it, many of them can remember growing up without plastic. Everything was in metal and things of that nature. So plastic is a relatively new invention. All right. And what people don't understand about plastic is plastic has chemicals in it. Okay. And many of those chemicals in plastics are called endocrine disruptors. Now, you may see them on your water bottle and it'll be BPA. And sometimes it'll say BPA free. So you'll think, well, I'm good because this was BPA free. But what you don't know is, yeah, it's free of BPA, but they have BPS and BPF, okay, that they don't mention, all right? And so it's very hard to make plastics, and these plastics, and I'm not just talking about plastic bottles, I'm talking about plastic Tupperware, the plastic that most of the food, when you go into the store, is in. Okay, that plastic is leaching. That's why a water bottle has an expiration date on it. The water never goes bad, but the plastic starts to leach into the water. That's why it has an expiration date on it. So that plastic is constantly breaking down. And as it breaks down, a lot of those chemicals are going into your water or going into your food. If you buy those TV dinners or whatever you buy, most of it is typically in plastic. Okay, and these chemicals that are in there are called endocrine disruptors. And these endocrine disruptors are well known to be associated with cancer because they cause hormonal imbalance. And as I mentioned before, most of the prevalent cancers that people are being affected by are reproductive cancers like breast cancer and cervical cancer and prostate cancer. Okay, so another cause. All right. I think that's really important. These environmental chemicals are very important. It's a lifestyle shift to go from, just think about it. When you go out, let's say you order some food and you do a takeaway, most of the containers are plastic and you're putting hot food in those containers. And as it's melting, These chemicals are going into your food. And one of the most dangerous forms of, plastic is the black plastic, because most of that comes from, melted down computer devices, okay? Which has a ton of chemicals in it. Even the cutlery that you use, that black plastic is one of the most dangerous. So it's really important to start to eliminate these plastics. I mean, I saw somebody in the store one time, they bought their own and they're like, hey, can I put my takeaway in my own glass containers? And they were like, oh no, we can't do that. So, the person walked out and I was thinking like, well, why did they do that? And that's what made me do the research. Okay, so that's number one, environmental chemicals.